What's up, everyone? This is Shakir Ramsey from RamseySpeaksTV.com. I'm here with a very good friend and colleague of mine, Jeffrey Cloetingh. Jeffrey spent his career in human capital consulting. He came to the Johnson School to make a shift into strategy consulting, spent his summer at LEK, and he'll be heading back after we graduate. There's a few things I'd love to list about Jeffrey's accomplishments. Jeff has been a Johnson Board Fellow, he's been a Johnson Leadership Fellow, and a Consulting Club officer, and most notably, he was able to spend some time as a strategic advisor to the Ithaca School District Superintendent's office. Jeff, my first question is, as a strategic advisor to the Ithaca City School District Superintendent, can you share with us how do you make change in a community? What are some of the steps, and if one meets resistance, how do they overcome that? And before you even get into that, just talk a little bit about how you advise and what project you did work on.
Sure. So actually I was one of the few people that in my MBA admissions essay wrote about working with the Ithaca City School District, and came here, didn't have a relationship with the district, and reached out to them and had an opportunity to build a relationship from there. First it started off as a strategic visioning process, which was then boiled down to a continuous improvement process. And eventually, effectively, what we were trying to do was to gather stakeholder feedback from all the different constituencies within the school district. So teachers, administrators, students, people in the community, anyone that had a stake in seeing children educated. So that was the background of the project. And to answer your question about change, it was really a four-step process for us as we went through this. The first was to build some type of an urgency, and it was easy because there was a new superintendent, somebody that had been there for about 10 or 12 years ahead of time, had moved on, and the sense of urgency was created. The next step for us was to build a vision and to be able to articulate that vision. And that came in two forms. You know, the first was the actual superintendent that built his vision, tied it to his daughter, who is going into the kindergarten, going into the school system in 3 years, and he said that he wanted to have a better system in place by the time she graduated in 2027. And what we were doing is we were latching onto that and trying to find ways in which we could envision ourselves putting together a successful project for them. The third step would be building a coalition, and so when you're trying to get support around you, it's really important to listen, to talk with people, to get out there, because building a coalition doesn't happen inside the walls of the school. And so one thing that was really impressive that I saw Dr. Brown, who was a superintendent, do was to go out to various places where the people were. So he would go to barbershops, he would go to salons, he would go to synagogues, churches, and he would sit down and talk with groups of 10 to 20 people, ask them what they thought was going well, ask them what they thought wasn't going well, and most of the time he's just listening. And by doing that, you really create a sense of togetherness, and you make people feel like they're really engaged in the process of change. The next step is that you take all of that feedback and you react to it, right? You listen to it, you comprehend it, you synthesize it, and you put together a culture that reflects the changes, both the good ideas that haven't been instituted and the bad ideas that you need to change into that culture. So it was really a fascinating process for the past 15 months to go through that with the superintendent and be there right next to them to try to assist them in this change process.
What is some of the biggest lessons that you learned out of this education initiative, and why was it so important for you to do this?
Sure. So, you know, I value education, and I'm of the mind that it's one thing that you can invest in that is rarely not going to pay back. You know, you come to business school and you learn about investing in risk and reward, and investing in stocks and companies. Really investing in education is most cases one of the best things that you can do. So coming from me, I'm somebody that really values education and want to give back in any way that I can to making education systems better. What I valued specifically from this project was the fact that education, the system of education, is it's a nonprofit, right? And so it has many different values and measures of success. So for example, a lot of the measures of success are intangible. So you have things that you can measure, which are like dropout rates, but you know, what education is really valuable for is to build individuals and develop people that are going to be very productive and lead very successful lives in the future. So the real reward for building a successful educational institution isn't realized 20 years until after the student has graduated. So, you know, I think working with organizations that have multiple bottom lines and are really focused not just on the financial aspect, even though it is important to make sure that you can run an organization and be financially sound. There are other aspects to it. I think that education, truly is just one of the most valuable things that I've seen in my life, and certainly something that came out of the project.
There you have it, folks. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing with us a little bit about your project and some of the values and lessons that you learned. Jeff listed out several steps to get involved in the community and make change happen. One of the lessons that I took from it was you should listen to understand and not necessarily just to reply. He talked about Dr. Brown going into the community, understanding the needs of the community first before reacting and being prescriptive about how things should be done. That's the first, I think, or one of the many important things that you have to do if you want to influence change in the community. Second, education is a great gateway to influence change. The rewards and the benefits might not be felt immediately because education is a structural issue, but over the long term, the payback is huge, and that's the greatest way to build a community up and make change ripple through society in general. Thank you so much for tuning in to RamseySpeaks.com. This is Jeff and Shakir. Take care.